Flames swallowed the night. My car was upside down, metal screeching, glass raining like sharp snow. A body crawled out from the wreck covered in blood, dragging itself toward the streetlight. For a second, I thought it was me, but then I saw his face. Karen's son, the same kid who'd screamed slurs at me hours earlier. Now he was whispering something my name. Sirens cut through the smoke. Police lights flickered across my uniform. The stars and stripes twisted in the reflection of shattered windows. Put your hands where I can see them, they yelled. They thought I did this. Every second, while you're watching this, someone is making a choice that will destroy their life forever. I made mine that night, and by the end of this story, you'll know why I didn't regret it. Even after everything burned, before everything went to hell, my mornings were quiet. I'd wake before sunrise, lace my boots, and step outside to the sound of sprinklers and birds. The world felt simple then. I was Jack Harris, 42, National Guard general, husband, neighbor, homeowner, a man who paid his dues and believed peace could be earned through discipline. The street I lived on looked like any other American dream: freshly cut lawns, mailboxes painted white, flags fluttering. But dreams have cracks. And under the paint, this neighborhood was rotting with something I didn't see until it was too late. Karen lived 2 houses down. Blonde, loud, always with that fake smile that couldn't hide the disgust in her eyes when she looked at me. She was the kind of neighbor who called HOA if your trash bin was 2 inches off the curb. The kind who measured grass height with a ruler. Her son Tyler was worse. 19, tail face, truck full of hate stickers, and eyes that looked at me like I didn't belong on my own street. He used to rev his engine every time I walked by. He'd shout things he thought I couldn't hear, but I did. I just chose silence. For my wife. For peace. Still, you can't silence everything. Not when you wear the uniform. Not when you've led men through chaos and seen what hate can do. I kept telling myself, this is just suburbia, not a battlefield. But maybe I was wrong. That morning, the first sign came. I found my car door scratched deep, deliberate, the word traitor carved into the paint. My stomach twisted. I looked around, but no one was there. Only Karen watering her roses, pretending not to see. Morning, Jack, she said, voice sugar-coated. I nodded. She smiled. Too long. I took photos, sent them to the HOA chat. No response. A few hours later, I got a notice violation for unapproved vehicle damage visible from the street. That's when I knew. They weren't ignoring me. They were mocking me. I wanted to let it go. I really did. But when you've spent 20 years leading soldiers, when you've buried friends who died for justice, something inside you refuses to bow. That night, I installed cameras. I sat by the window, lights off, watching. My wife asked what I was doing. I said, just making sure we're safe. She didn't ask more. Maybe she felt it too, the shift in the air, the tension crawling through the walls. At 2 a.m., motion alert. I checked the feed. A shadow near my car. A figure crouched low. Hoodie. Gloves. I zoomed in. Tyler. He was cutting my tires, laughing silently, filming himself. I felt my pulse hammer in my throat. I stepped outside, barefoot, gun holstered under my shirt. He didn't hear me until I spoke. That's enough, son. He froze. The knife clattered to the pavement. For a second, I thought he'd run, but he didn't. He grinned. You gonna shoot me, soldier Bo? I told him to leave. He spat on my driveway and walked off. Next morning, I found a letter taped to my door. You don't belong here. No signature. Just the HOA logo stamped on top. I remember standing there, the paper shaking in my hand, and thinking, this isn't a misunderstanding anymore. It's a message. Coming up, I'll tell you what happened when I tried to fight back the right way, when I thought the law would protect me. But in this town, the law had its favorites, and I wasn't one of them. I thought rules would protect me. That's what they drilled into us in the Guard. Order, structure, chain of command. You follow protocol, and justice follows you. But out here, in the clean, smiling face of suburbia, the rules were just another weapon. The morning after I found that letter, I went straight to the HOA office. It was a small white building near the park, with American flags out front and fake marble floors inside. A receptionist with a tight bun and tighter smile asked if I had an appointment. No, I said, but this is about harassment. She hesitated, looked me up and down, and said, I'll see if anyone's available. She didn't call anyone. She just disappeared for 15 minutes and came back with Karen herself, clipboard in hand, sunglasses on her head like a crown. "Jack," she said, pretending surprise. "What brings you here?" I held up the letter. "Someone taped this to my door last night, with your logo on it." Her lips twitched. "Oh, that's odd. Must be some kind of prank." I stared at her. "A prank that uses the HOA seal?" She shrugged. "Anyone could print that. Maybe one of your friends." The pause before that last word felt like a knife. I kept my voice calm. "I have footage of your son vandalizing my property. I'd like to file an official complaint." Her smile vanished. For a second, I saw the real her. Cold, calculating. Then she said, "You can submit it in writing. We'll review it at the next board meeting." "When's that?" "Next month." "A whole month." I almost laughed, but I didn't. I just said, "Fine," and walked out. Later that day, I drove to the police station, a place I thought still meant something. Inside, the air smelled like burnt coffee and old paper. I showed them the video of Tyler slashing my tires. The officer, a heavyset man named Brooks, watched it, scratched his beard, and said, "Do you have proof it was him? You can see his face. Could be anyone." He looked at the camera, said my name. Brooks shrugged. "Kids mess around. No damage beyond the tires, right? That's destruction of property." He sighed. "You want to press charges? You know that's Karen Jensen's beau, right? HOA president's son? I don't care whose son he is." He smiled, not kindly. "You should." He wrote something on a pad, ripped the paper, and handed it to me. "Case number. We'll follow up." They didn't. A week passed. Then two. Every day, another petty violation slipped into my mailbox. Unapproved fence color, unauthorized security cameras, non-regulation mailbox height. They were bleeding me slowly, one fine at a time. And every night, I felt eyes on me. From across the street, from Karen's porch, from the shadow outline of her son's truck idling by the curb. My wife started sleeping in the guest room. Said she felt unsafe. I couldn't blame her. I told her I was handling it, but inside, I was boiling. "Remember, this is Jack speaking. The same man who led troops through sandstorms, who'd pulled bodies from rubble, who'd seen deaths and didn't flinch. But this quiet war of smiles and letters was breaking me in ways combat never did. Coming up, I'll show you how far they pushed before I finally broke." The turning point came on a Sunday. Church bells in the distance. I was fixing the porch light when two squad cars rolled up. Sirens off, lights flashing silently. "Mr. Harris?" One officer called out. "Step away from the property." I froze. "What's this about?" He read from a notepad. "We received a report of a threat involving a firearm." Karen stood across the street, arms folded, watching. I said, "That's a lie, sir. We're just following procedure. We need to check your house." My wife came to the door. She looked terrified. "They searched everything. My drawers, closets, garage. They found my legally registered weapon, the one I kept for protection. I showed them my military ID, my permits, everything. Still, they whispered to each other like I was a criminal." After an hour, one of them came back out. "All clear," he said, "but maybe keep the gun locked tighter. Neighbors are nervous." Neighbors. That word stung more than any bullet. Karen smiled at me from across the street. "Just keeping the community safe," she said. I clenched my fists so hard my nails dug into my palms. I wanted to scream, but I didn't. I just went inside and closed the door. That night, I couldn't sleep. I replay every moment in my head. The fake kindness, the silence of the police, the way the system wrapped itself around her like armor. I started writing everything down. Dates, times, photos, videos. A record of every violation, every threat, every whisper. Because I realized something. Rules don't protect you when they're written by your enemy. 2 days later, I got a call from the HOA lawyer. "Mr. Harris," he said, "we've received multiple complaints about your aggressive behavior." I laughed bitterly. "Aggressive? You mean defending myself?" "Just advising you," he said smoothly. "Maybe it's best if you consider relocation. For everyone's comfort. For everyone's comfort." I hung up without replying. That evening, I sat on my porch, uniform still in the closet, metals gathering dust. The sun was setting behind the rows of perfect houses, painting everything gold. It looked peaceful, but all I could see was rot. Remember, I'm Jack Harris. And this is the moment I realize peace is just a word the powerful use to keep you quiet. Coming up, you'll see what happens when I stop being quiet. when I stopped playing by their rules. Because sometimes the only way to survive a system built to destroy you is to burn it down. You can only push a man so far before he breaks. That's what I kept telling myself as I watched the world turn against me. Every sigh, every whisper, every cold stare at the mailbox felt like a blade slicing at my sanity. I tried to stay calm, tried to stay the good neighbor, but good men get buried quietly. It started small. I installed motion lights along my driveway. Legal, approved, nothing fancy. 2 days later, a notice appeared. Unauthorized lighting fixture. Remove within 48 hours. The same lights that Karen's husband had 3 of. So I took the letter, scanned it, and stapled it to my fence. Big, bold. A message. I see you. That night, the lights flicked off one by one. Then came the sound of laughter, low, muffled. Tyler's truck idling at the curb. I stepped outside. He revved the engine. I didn't move. He shouted, "What you looking at, General?" That word General rolled off his tongue like poison. "I'm looking at a coward," I said. He grinned, spun his tires, and sprayed gravel across my yard. Something inside me cracked. Remember, this is Jack Harris speaking, the same man who's seen villages fall and brothers die. But that night, standing barefoot on my own lawn, I felt more helpless than ever before. So I went back inside, opened my laptop, and started writing a report. Not to the HOA, not to the police, to my contacts in the GAR, Internal Affairs, State Command. I had friends who owed me favors. I sent them everything: videos, letters, recordings. Told them I suspected organized harassment, possible racial targeting, abuse of local authority. For once, I felt power shift. Days passed. Then I got the call. "Jack," said Colonel Stevens, my old commander, "you sure you want to go down this road? HOA drama isn't our jurisdiction." "It's not drama when they're weaponizing the system," I said. He sighed. "I'll see what I can do." That was the last I heard from him. Next morning, I found a dead bird nailed to my porch. No note, no witnesses. Just silence and the slow realization that this was no longer about property or pride. This was war. My wife cried that night, said she couldn't take it anymore, said she wanted to leave. I told her I needed to finish this, that if we ran now, we'd never stop running. She didn't understand. Maybe she never could. Coming up, I'll tell you what I did next, how I turned fear into strategy. Because when you've led men into fire, you learn that chaos can be a weapon. The next morning, I woke up before dawn, put on my uniform, and walked outside. I wanted them to see it. The medals, the stripes, the authority they couldn't touch. Karen was already outside, pretending to trim her roses. She froze when she saw me. "Dig day, General?" she asked. "Just taking a stand," I said. She smirked. "You think that uniform scares anyone here?" "No," I said, "but it reminds me who I am." She laughed. "You're just another homeowner, Jack. Same rules, same fines, same penalties. Then I guess I'll see you in court." Her smile faltered for the first time. That afternoon, I filed an official lawsuit: harassment, defamation, property damage. I submitted every piece of evidence, every timestamp, every violation. I even hired a lawyer from the city, someone who didn't know Karen, didn't care about HOA politics. For a week, things went quiet. No letters, no laughter. Even Tyler's truck disappeared. I almost thought I'd won. Then came the email. "Your HOA membership has been suspended pending investigation." Suspended? For filing a lawsuit. My lawyer called, furious. "They can't do that," he said. "Oh, they can," I replied, "because they write the rules." That night, I sat in my office staring at the glow of the monitor. My own name, on a dozen complaint forms, twisted and weaponized against me. One of them read, "Aggressive behavior toward HOA members." Another, "Displaying military weapons in public." All lies, but enough lies make truth disappear. I realized then I wasn't fighting neighbors anymore. I was fighting a machine built to crush anyone who didn't fit the mold. Coming up, you'll see the night that machine tried to destroy me completely. Because when power hides behind laws and signatures, the only thing it fears is exposure. And I was done being quiet. The storm came 3 days later. Not thunder, not rain, something worse. It started with a knock at the door. Heavy, measured, the kind that carries authority. I opened it to find 2 officers and a man in a suit. The man's badge gleamed under the porch light. "Jack Harris?" he asked. Yes. We have a warrant to search the premises. Gut tightened. For what? He flipped a folder open. Illegal possession of stolen property. I froze. You've got the wrong house. He looked up, almost bored. We'll see. They pushed past me. My wife screamed from the living room. I tried to calm her, but one of the officers barked, "Step aside, sir." They tore through everything. Closets, drawers, the garage. I kept asking what they were looking for. No one answered. Then I heard the words that change everything. "We found it." I walked into the garage and my heart stopped. There, in the corner, under a tarp, sat my car, the one that had been stolen 2 nights earlier. Scratched, dented, still smelling of burned rubber. I hadn't seen it since the night Tyler's truck vanished. My wife looked at me like she didn't know who I was. "Jack, what is this?" "I don't know," I whispered. But even I could hear how weak it sounded. The man in the suit handed me a paper. "You're under investigation, General Harris. Step outside, please." They cuffed me in front of my own house. Neighbors peeked from behind curtains. Karen stood on her lawn, pretending to be shocked, hand over her mouth, phone recording everything. I could feel her satisfaction through the lens. "Karen," I shouted, "you did this." She tilted her head. "You really should calm down, Jack. It's not a good look." They drove me downtown. The car ride felt endless. I kept replaying everything in my mind. The camera footage, the missing car, the silence from the car. Someone had planned this. Someone had planted that car. But I had no proof. At the station, they took my prints, my phone, my sidearm. The officer who booked me smirked when he saw my ID. "National Guard, huh? Thought you boys knew better." I spent that night in a holding cell. Concrete, cold, buzzing light above my head. Every minute felt like an insult. When morning came, they released me pending investigation. No charges yet, just suspicion, just enough to stain my name. Outside, cameras waiting, local reporters shouting questions. "General Harris, did you steal the vehicle? Were you targeting the HOA president's son?" I said nothing. When I got home, the front door was half open. My wife was gone, her closet empty. On the kitchen counter a note. "I can't live like this anymore." I read it once, then again, and then I just stood there, staring at the wall, realizing how completely they'd isolated me. I wasn't just losing my home, I was losing my identity. Coming up, I'll show you how far the rot went. How even the people I trusted turned away. Because when your enemies can't break your body, they break your name. Later that day, I drove to the guard base to clear my head. At the gate, the soldier looked at me, hesitated, then said, "Sir, your clearance has been suspended." "What?" "Orders from command." "Sorry, sir." No entry, no access, no explanation. Just silence. I sat there in the car, engine running, staring through the windshield at the flag I used to salute. Everything I'd built, 20 years of service, honor, discipline gone in a whisper. That night, I got a message from an unknown number. One photo, my car, from the night it was stolen. Tyler in the driver's seat, laughing. No caption, just the timestamp 2 hours after I'd reported it missing. I stared at that image for what felt like hours. My hands were shaking, my breath shallow. Someone wanted me to see it. Someone wanted me to know they owned me. Remember, this is Jack Harris. And this is the night I realized I wasn't fighting a community. I was fighting a conspiracy. Coming up, I'll show you what happens when a man with nothing left to lose decides to take everything back. And trust me, it won't be pretty. I couldn't sleep. Not a wink. Not a sound. Not even the hum of the streetlights outside could calm the storm inside me. My hands shook as I gripped the steering wheel. Every thought ran like bullets in my head. Every memory of Tyler laughing behind the wheel of my stolen car stabbed me anew. My home had been violated. My wife gone. My honor crushed. And worst of all, the law my country turned its back. I knew one thing. The only way out was through fire. I wasn't going to wait for the system to correct itself. I was going to take it back, piece by piece, person by person, lie by lie. And if anyone tried to stop me, they'd learn what happens when a general decides he's done being polite. The first step was surveillance. I couldn't just charge in blindly, but I had contacts, old soldiers, people who knew how to disappear and reappear. By dawn, I had eyes on every angle of Karen's house. Her HOA friends, her stupidly smug son. Their comings and goings. I noted everything. I memorized license plates, patterns, even her morning coffee run. Nothing was random. Nothing could escape me. That night, I drove past her house, parked 2 blocks away. Shadows danced under the street lamps. I watched Tyler through the blinds, the little bastard laughing as he flipped through his phone. I felt a cold rage coil in my chest. I wanted to scream. I wanted to run in and crush him, but I knew better. Precision, timing, pain they wouldn't forget. I returned home and spread my plans across the kitchen table. Maps, photos, timestamps. I marked every entry point, every blind spot, every potential weakness. I was meticulous, obsessive, dangerous, and I loved every second of it. By the second night, I made my move. Not a physical attack yet, not too early. I left a small gift at Karen's doorstep. Nothing traceable. Just a black envelope with one word in thick red ink: watch. Inside, a photo of Tyler behind the wheel of my car, from a different angle than the cops had. Enough to scare them, enough to let them know someone was watching. It worked immediately. The next day, Karen was twitchy, pacing the lawn like a caged cat. Tyler didn't even look at her when she yelled at him. That smirk, gone. Fear had replaced it, and I thrived on it. Coming up, I knew fear was the first step. The next would be chaos. I decided to escalate. I didn't just want to scare them, I wanted to make them bleed. Legally, socially, psychologically. First, I tampered with the HOA files. Not in a way they could trace to me, just enough to show irregularities, missing documents, discrepancies in dues, illegal meetings. I left hints in the right hands: journalists, board members who had been questioning Karen's control. A little push here, a little whisper there. Then came Tyler. That little brat thought he was untouchable, but I had him. Using a combination of GPS tracking and intercepted messages, I set him up. I made it look like his friends were betraying him, leaking his plans, exposing his lies. I didn't touch him directly. Not yet. I let paranoia do my work. By the end of the week, the house was cracking from the inside. Karen screamed at Tyler. Tyler screamed back. Neighbors whispered. Cameras caught fragments. Everything was unraveling. And I was the shadow pulling the strings, watching every flicker of fear in their eyes, every tremor in their voices. But I wasn't done. Not even close. That Friday, I drove to the lot where the stolen car had supposedly been hidden. After the police found it, I parked in the darkness, heart pounding, flashlight in hand. The smell hit me first: gas, oil, cheap cologne, fear. Then I saw it. My car. Not moved, not scratched, but someone had tried to wipe fingerprints. Someone had tried to erase me from it. I laughed quietly. A low, dangerous sound. The game was on. I had them. Every trace they left, every mistake, every arrogant move, they were mine now. Coming up, they would push back. They always do. But I was ready. For Tyler, for Karen, for the crooked cops and HOA cronies. I was ready to explode. And I would. That night, I struck. Not with weapons, not with bullets. Not yet. Information. Evidence. Every lie Karen had spun. Every illegal action Tyler had taken. I documented it. Hidden cameras, hacked emails, financial slits. I had it all. And then I sent the first of many anonymous tips to the media. The fallout was immediate. Social media blew up. The neighborhood gossip turned into a wildfire of rumors and half-truths. Karen was furious, but powerless. Tyler called me once, voice shaking. "You can't do this." I smiled into the darkness. "Watch me." Next, I needed a physical move. The guard inside me, the warrior, the man trained to command, took over. I planned a confrontation, but on my terms. I waited until the night they celebrated some HOA victory. I knew the time, the place. I drove past silently, engine off, watching from shadows. Tyler laughed, drunk on arrogance. Karen clapped, smug. They had no idea what was coming. I approached. Not silently, not yet. I let the fear build. And then bam, tires screeched. Tyler's smile faltered. Karen's eyes widened. A single figure emerged from darkness, me, Jack Harris, National Guard General, and in that moment, I wasn't just a man-rond. I was the storm itself. I slammed my hand on the hood of my car. "You think you can destroy me?" I yelled. The air was thick with tension, neighbors peeking from windows. Tyler froze. Karen gasped. The silence after my roar felt like eternity. Coming up, this is where the chaos escalates, where they realize their little games have consequences. And I had barely begun. I pulled out evidence from my jacket, tossing photos and documents at their feet. Their smug expressions shattered. Tyler's phone buzzed with leaks I had sent hours earlier. Every text, every email, every recorded lie was suddenly public. Karen dropped to her knees, clutching her pearls, screaming at me to stop. Tyler tried to run, but I blocked him effortlessly, calm and terrifying. "This is just the beginning," I said, and it was. By midnight, the neighborhood was in pandemonium. Cars honked, phones flashed, neighbors whispered and pointed. Karen's empire crumbled live under the stars while I stood there, cold and unstoppable. And as I drove away that night, headlights cutting through the darkness, I felt something I hadn't felt in weeks: power, control, justice on my terms. Coming up next, we cross the line from retaliation to full reckoning. The HOA, the cops, everyone who thought they could touch me, they're about to learn the price of awakening a general who's lost everything and has nothing left to fear. The game had changed. I had changed. And the storm was just getting started. The morning after the first strike, I woke to chaos. News alerts flashed across my phone. Tyler's texts were desperate, frantic. Karen's posts were everywhere, screaming about injustice, about a madman ruining her perfect neighborhood. But I didn't flinch. I watched it all unfold with the calm of a man who had seen worse in faraway lands. By mid-morning, the whole board had convened an emergency meeting. Calls were made, lawyers consulted, police notifications filed. They thought they could corner me through bureaucracy, through fear of public opinion. They had no idea what kind of man I was. A general doesn't bow to paperwork. A general doesn't panic. And a general doesn't hesitate when it comes to retaliation. I spent the day tracking every step of Karen and her cronies. Cameras hidden in strategic spots. Hacked emails. Intercepted phone calls. They planned. They plotted. They whispered, thinking they were unseen. Coming up, they would regret every move. By evening, I learned they had contacted the local police to file harassment charges against me. Karen's voice shook as she dictated her complaint, every word dripping with false righteousness. Tyler muttered under his breath about going to jail. I laughed softly. Jail? For what? Protecting what's mine. Reclaiming my life. They had no idea who they were dealing with. The next few days were a test of nerve. Every time I moved, I felt their eyes on me. I could see the paranoia building in Karen's posture, in Tyler's twitchy glances. They were afraid, but not yet desperate. I needed desperation. I needed chaos. I upped the pressure. Anonymous tips continued to flow into the media. Karen's board members began questioning her leadership openly. Emails I sent revealed illegal HOA fund usage, property violations, and secret agreements. Tyler's friends turned against him as I carefully leaked texts showing his betrayals. I was surgical, precise, methodical. But then they struck. It started with an SUV speeding past my driveway late at night, headlights blinding, engine roaring, a clear message. Then came the phone calls, threats, warnings, messages claiming I was overstepping, that they knew men who could handle me. Coming up, I would show them who could handle whom. I had been expecting retaliation, but this was audacious, reckless. The HOA wasn't just fighting legally, they were escalating into territory I could match with strategy, intelligence, and force. And I would respond, the only way I knew how: overwhelming precision. I took to the streets, not recklessly, not emotionally, but like a predator stalking prey. I documented everything: the SUV's license plates, the timing, the route. I even intercepted their security camera feeds. Every move they made, I anticipated. Every attempt to intimidate me was turned into evidence. By the second night, I had a plan. I knew Karen and Tyler would attend a HOA fundraiser at the community center. I positioned myself carefully across the street, shadows as allies, eyes in every corner. A presence unseen but omnipresent. Every step I took was deliberate, every breath measured. Coming up, they would finally see the storm they provoked. When they arrived, Karen's confidence was palpable, but I could see cracks in the armor. Tyler was jittery, scanning the street, checking his phone, whispering to friends. They had no idea I was there. I started subtle moves. Anonymous emails with incriminating evidence were sent to the attendees, just as I had planned. Phones buzzed, conversations paused mid-word, heads turned, murmurs spread. Panic was infectious. I could feel the tension as it radiated from inside the community center, and I smiled behind my shadowed figure. Then came the escalation. Tyler attempted to confront me outside the building, running toward me, anger and arrogance in every movement. I didn't flinch. I stepped out of the shadows, calm, measured. "You've made a mistake, kid," I said. His eyes widened fear. For a brief moment, his smirk vanished entirely. Karen screamed for help, calling 911. I let her, letting the sound of desperation fuel my focus. Coming up, the real confrontation wasn't verbal. It was psychological. Every threat she made, every call for backup, played into my strategy. I circled Tyler, forcing him to backpedal. His friends shouted, frozen. I could see the betrayal I had engineered showing in their eyes. Every doubt, every secret, every leak had been set to culminate here. Every movement, I mirrored control and dominance. Karen tried to intervene physically, stepping toward me with anger. I didn't touch her. I didn't need to. Fear did the work. Every glare she shot me, every shout, every desperate step perfectly choreographed for maximum effect. Coming up, she would regret ever underestimating me. Then came the moment that would break them completely. I released one final set of evidence, meticulously timed. Files, photos, emails, messages all flashing on the projector inside the community center. The room fell silent. Gasps, murmurs. Tyler's friends turned against him, pointing out betrayals had exposed. Karen's face was red, her screams hollow, desperate. I watched them crumble, knowing that they were out of options. No legal maneuvering could undo what I had revealed. No lie could repair the damage. I had created a perfect storm of public exposure and personal fear, leaving them powerless. And I left, not running, not hiding. I walked calmly, each step echoing my confidence. Every eye that dared look at me was met with control, dominance. The knowledge that I had orchestrated every move, anticipated every retaliation, and won. Coming up, the final reckoning, the price of underestimating a National Guard general. By dawn, Karen and Tyler were frantically trying to regain control, calling lawyers, the police, even journalists to deny the evidence. But it was too late. The storm I had created was already rolling through the community. Every house whispered my name. Every HOA member feared the consequences. And I, Jack Harris, stood unbroken, untouchable, the orchestrator of chaos and justice intertwined. This wasn't victory. Not yet. This was the awakening. The moment they realized the rules had changed. The moment the HOA and everyone who thought they could manipulate and intimidate me learned that a man with nothing left to lose and everything to protect would not stop. Coming up, the battle escalates beyond strategy into a confrontation they could not have imagined. And I would make sure every consequence hit with full force, testing their limits, pushing them past the point of fear into full-blown panic. The HOA strikes back, but I am the storm, and storms do not apologize. I walk toward him. I breathe shallow. This is Jack. I am Jack Harris. I have led men through fire. I have held the line. I have buried brothers. Tonight, I face a woe with too much hate and a gun that answers his anger. It started at the edge of the park, a place kids used to play, a place dogs walked. Now it smells like gasoline and fear. Karen's porch light is a sick halo in the distance. Neighbors' windows are dark. They watch with their phones like vultures. I can feel them watching. Every step I take echoes. Tyler is waiting by the bench. He looks smaller up close, sweat on his lip, a bruise blooming near his eye. He has that stupid jacket zipped too high. In his hands, I can see the outline. A pistol, short, cheap, loud if you pull the trigger, Jack. His voice cracks. You shouldn't have done that. I step closer. You should have never stolen my car. He laughs, then sobs one of those childish sounds that is almost worse than anger. You think you can ruin my life and get away with it. I am Jack. I say, I want the truth. Short. Simple. Like the order you give a squad. He raises the gun. I freeze. Not because I'm scared. Because I know what this means. I have felt the weight of a weapon before. In combat, the enemy is clear. Civilians complicate everything, but this is different. This is personal. This is smaller, scarier, closer. He points the gun at me and shakes. The barrel is not steady. Neither is his breath. I notice the tremor in his hand. He is not a killer. Not yet. He is a frightened kid playing a role given to him. Put it down, Tyler, I say. My voice is calm but raw. Put it down and walk away. He laughs again, but it's brittle. You don't tell me what to do, General. I am Jack. I say, then don't. I move 2 steps to the left. I want to close the distance. I want to disarm him without blood if I can. But I also know, plain and cold, that this could end badly. He swings the gun toward me. The muzzle flashes. The first shot misses by inches. A bark from a dog. A car door slams 3 houses down. The sound splinters the night. I feel a hot wind where the bullet passed. My shirt pulses with the vibration of the air. I drop. Reflex old as muscle memory. But I'm not on a battlefield. No cover. Just grass and broken dreams. Tyler fires again. This time the bullet finds the bench behind me. Wood explodes into splinters. A neighbor screams somewhere. I scramble. Drop it, Tyler. I scream. My voice is warped. This is not a drill. People are moving now. Lights flick on. Someone is filming. Everybody wants to be part of the story. He shoots upward in panic. I see the white of his knuckles. I see the way his face goes flat with shock at every recoil. He is losing control. He is breathing too fast. He has no plan beyond pulling the trigger. I stand. I am Jack. I have to be faster. I close distance. The rules in my head conflict with rules in my body. I should aim to disable, not to kill. I think of my men. I think of the oath. I think of my wife's note. I think of honor. But honor does not protect you from bullets. Tyler turns and runs. He stumbles. Fear makes him clumsy. He runs toward the alley that cuts between 2 houses, the place I had predicted he might flee. I sprint after him. My boots thud on gravel. I taste iron on my tongue. My chest burns. He turns, and for a split second, he's a bow. A scared bow. He raises the gun again. I close the last yard, and our worlds collide. The shot cracks. The sound is a hammer. My left shoulder pops with the force of the impact. Pain flares. I see red bloom on my sleeve. Not much. Enough. I stumble, but I keep moving. Adrenaline is a blunt tool. It keeps the heart beating when the body wants to quit. Tyler freezes. The gun shakes. He looks at his hands like he doesn't recognize them. That pause is a gift. I take it. I move into him, the way you pin an enemy in training. My arm wraps his wrist. I twist. He screams. Metal hits metal. The handgun skids out of his grasp and bounces on the pavement. I choke out, stop. I am not gentle. I am not merciful. Not tonight. The world has been too merciless to me. The blocky shape of the pistol lies between us. He lunges, and I throw my weight into him. He crashes against the fence. The impact is a sound that shoves the night backward. Don't move, I say. The words are simple orders, the kind that used to save lives. A crowd presses in. Flashing phones. A siren far away. He starts to cry. Real tears. Real fear. He whispers, "They told me to do it. She told me he's not one of us." His voice crumbles. It's an apology and a confession on the same breath. I am Jack. I feel the old hurt, the weight of command, the demand of judgment. I also feel a swell of something darker. I think of my wife leaving, the note, the planted car, the frame. I think of my name dragged through mud. I think of the dead bird on my porch. I think of the smear campaign, the suspended clearance, the photos in my mailbox. My hand tightens on Tyler's wrist. I look at his face. He is only 19 and hollow from lies. I look at the pistol. I look at the crowd. I look at the path that brought me here. There is only one choice to make, or so it feels. The choice has a weight heavy enough to split a man. This is the dilemma. Both options are poison. If I arrest him here, call the cops. Let the system do its thing. They will paint me as the violent general who beat a teen. They will spin it. They will say I used my power. My reputation will be shredded. My family will be less safe. My name will be used as a warning. The system will swallow another truth and call it closed. If I do not arrest him, if I decide on a harsher lesson, if I make this personal in a way the law cannot touch, what do I become? I saw myself as a man of law. I wore the uniform for that reason. But standing here, with my shoulder burning and the taste of blood in my mouth, the uniform feels thin. I feel older than my medals. I feel like a man with nothing left to lose. I am Jack. The choice glows in front of me like a white-hot wire. For a second, time freezes. My training says detain, call it in, let evidence be gathered. My heart says something else. My anger says, teach him the cost of using your life as target practice. Tyler tries to wrench free. He spits, "You'll regret this." Then he stops. He sees something in my face, a shadow he never expected. Terror returns. Call the police. I say aloud. My voice is low. I mean it. The irony tastes bitter. I am calling the very system that turned its back on me. I am making a show. Cameras will capture this. The crowd will record. The footage will tell a story. A neighbor, trembling, pulls out his phone. He dials. Maybe he is feeling pity. Maybe he wants to prove he did the right thing. Maybe he wants to be first to upload. The sirens swell in the distance. Tyler laughs hysterically. They'll lock you up, he says. They always protect us. Not tonight, I answer. I am Jack. I am not naive. I know the system is broken, but tonight I want the truth to be seen. I want it to be recorded. The cops arrive. 2 cruisers. Lights strobe. They jump out. Weapons low. Officer Brooks, the same with the beard, stares at me like a man who smells a story. What the hell happened here? He asks. He is on the cuff of his radio. His badge glints. He looks at Tyler first. He has a gun, someone says. He shot at the general. Brooks' eyes flick to me. My shoulder is bleeding. My shirt dark where the shot grazed. I can see the calculation shifting. This is confirmation. This is evidence. He moves in to cuff Tyler. I let him. I do not intervene. My hands unclench slowly. Tyler's face breaks into 1,000 expressions: relief, disgust, hatred, shame. He stares at me like he wants to spit but can hardly breathe. Brooks looks at me. You okay, sir? He asks. There is worry. There is a caution I didn't get when my car was planted. There is that same dismissive air, the kind that asks if you're fit to stand. I say, yes. I am Jack. I say, I'm fine. But my voice trembles. Pain spikes. The adrenaline is a dull drum under the skin. They take Tyler away. I watch him go. He keeps his head turned, eyes locked on me like a promise, a threat, a scar. The cruiser pulls off, lights fading into the night. The crowd disperses slowly, phones down. Conversations die. The neighbor who called. He approaches me. General, do you want to press charges? He looks nervous. He looks like he expects me to want revenge. I think of the dilemma again. Both options hurt. I feel the old man in me weigh the cost. I say, yes. Press charges. My voice is flat. The words are a knife and a bandage at once. I want him to be held accountable. I want the law to do the work it promised. I also want the whole world to see what they made him do and what they almost made me become. This decision will have consequences. I know that. Calling the law hereafter, all the betrayals will be spun by them as violence. They will say they were afraid of me. They will call it another episode to justify the suspension, to make me a cautionary tale. The papers will pile on. Friends will distance. My wife is gone. My name is on the line. I am Jack. I choose to trust the law now. Because I need the image, I need the recur. I need to prove they started this chain. But the choice is sharp. It does not clear the night. It only changes the shape of the fight. The paramedics arrive. They check my shoulder. Wrap it. The wound is shallow. Primer grazed the skin, not bone. They ask questions. I answer. I keep the story simple. I keep my voice steady. I am Jack. As the ambulance leaves, light spinning, I notice something else. A text from an unknown number. A video. It shows Tyler in a truck with someone else. Karen's voice in the background, laughing, giving orders. The file is raw. The time stamped. 'Tis earlier in the week. This is proof. This is the chain. This is the thing that will hurt her more than any smear could. I am Jack. I tuck the phone into my pocket. My shoulder throbs. I watch the empty row where the cruiser drove away. A cold thought creeps in. They will try to bury this. They will call it a misunderstanding. They will press their advantage. Coming up, the aftermath will be filthy. Dirt will be thrown. The HOA will scream. Karen will rewrite her script. But there is something different now. The truth is no longer only in my head. It is on tape. It is in witnesses. It is in the bullet hole in the bench and the splintered wood and the neighbor who called. I have given the system a reason to look, one it cannot easily ignore. I am Jack. I look at the night sky. The stars are still there. The world keeps turning. But everything changed in the alley. A boy who shot at me is in a cell. A neighborhood will burn or heal, depending on what the next pieces do. I am wounded but standing. My hand trembles. The final click of the cruiser's taillights is a question. Will the system finally do right? Or will it twist this into another story that protects the guilty? I don't know. But I do know this. Nothing after tonight will be the same. Coming up, the fallout will come fast. Newspapers, town hall meetings, lawyers calling in favors. Karen will scream. The HOA will fracture. And me. I will have to decide once more how far I go to end this. The night closes in. The street is a ring of witnesses. My phone buzzes again. Another anonymous file. Another piece of the map. I pocket it and walk home slow. My shoulder hurts. My heart pounds. The world hums with gossip. And a question hangs in the air like smoke. Who set this final act in motion? And who will burn when the truth comes out? They came for me like a rising tide. Phone calls. Headlines. Late-night hosts with cheap jokes. I was everywhere and nowhere at once. My face was on live streams. My name trended in whispers and shouts. I had wanted exposure. I had wanted the truth to be seen. But I did not want the world to tear me apart in the process. This is Jack speaking. I keep telling myself that. It helps. It keeps me steady. It keeps me from becoming whatever they want to paint me as. The morning after the alley, the paper cuttings started to pile up on my porch like confessions. General accused of assaulting teen. Neighborhood in crisis. HOA hero or villain. The headlines smelled like cheap pitchforks. I burned through them with my coffee. I stared at the smear and named each lie out loud. Saying it out loud made it smaller. I was Jack. I had fought worse. Still, the ache hollowed me. Calls came from lawyers. One told me to lay low. Another promised to handle the optics. My lawyer, the one without connections to Karen, told me to preserve calm, to document everything, to let the law follow its path. He spoke like protocol mattered more than blood. I laughed until I felt sick. Coming up, the neighborhood would split. Loyalties would shift. Truths would leak. Some would run to the comfort of the old lies. Others would crack and reveal what they had hidden. They attacked my credibility first. Old interviews were clipped. A broadcast dug up a photo from 20 years ago and called it evidence of a violent temperament. Friends called. Distant now. Some sent cautious texts. Some didn't call at all. The guard sent a formal statement. It was short. Cautious. We are monitoring. It read. It sounded like a sentence. I went to work on proving what mattered. Proof. Dirt that couldn't be spun without looking like the liar. The unknown video that showed Karen's voice laughing in the truck was my North Star. I held it like a lantern. I played it only in private. I watched Karen's tone, sharp and certain. I watched Tyler follow a script. It was not a kid acting alone. It was orchestration. This is Jack. I say it again. I file timestamps. I cross-reference. I send copies to journalists anonymously. I send copies to a legal watchdog. I send copies to my old commander, Colonel Stevens, even though he had been quiet. I send them to one man who owed me a favor in the state attorney's office. One of those copies landed in the right hands. 2 days later, a reporter I hadn't contacted called. Her voice was low and careful. We have corroboration, she said. We have bank records, donations, wire transfers from the HOA to a shell corporation. We have emails that show a pattern. Her breath made the line jitter. She sounded like someone who had just found a map to buried bones. We want to meet. I felt both light and heavy. Part of me wanted to scream and run into the street and dance on the ruins. Part of me wanted to hide in a closet and wait till the storm passed. I am Jack. I walked into that meeting like a man taking a verdict. I handed over everything I had. The reporter nodded. She had a folder thick enough to break an argument. She promised she would run the story if her editors greenlit it. Coming up, if this hits, it will change everything. If it doesn't, they will bury it deeper. By dusk, a new wave hit. Anonymous donors to Karen's cousins were tied to a developer trying to buy out the strip of houses behind the park. The plot thickened. Motive, money, power. The neighborhood was not just petty. It had teeth. Someone wanted the land. Someone wanted silence. That night, a man I'd never met came to my door. He was thin, tired, his suit unremarkable. He handed me an envelope and walked away without a word. Inside, a ledger and a flash drive. Names, dates, transfer amounts in plain numbers. Proof. This was not only about me. It was about a larger rot. I sat down at the kitchen table and didn't move for an hour. I am Jack. I read every line. I felt the threads connect. The HOA's donations, the development company, a councilman with ties to Karen through a summer gala. It made a map of greed. My chest tightened. My hands shook. The ledger was a hand grenade with the pin pulled. If I threw it, the explosion would be massive. Coming up, expose and survive, or hide and live to fight another day. The next morning, the reporter called back. Her editor had greenlit a piece. It was scheduled for the follow-up morning broadcast and the site's homepage. I slept poorly. I rewatched the truck video. I rehearsed answers to questions I expected would come. When the story dropped, it landed like a small bomb. Social feeds erupted. People I had never met messaged me with gratitude and horror. The shell corporations were named. The transfer amounts were concrete. Karen's husband's name was in the paragraphs. The HOA board minutes that were supposed to be private were suddenly public. Karen phoned me. I let it ring out. She left a message. Her voice was a different thing now. She sounded small. "Jack, call me, please," she begged. That word on her tongue was not one I had heard from her before. A dozen neighbors called, some with apologies thin as tissue. Others shouted into the void, wanting blood. That the cops those I needed were still a problem. Officer Brooks called me. His tone was awkward, like a man stepping on glass. "General, we're reviewing the new evidence," he said. "We're reopening some things." I wanted to believe him. I let myself feel it for a second. Then the message board lit back up with threads accusing me of staging the leaks. People are quick to believe the simplest tale. The simplest tale then becomes the loudest. Remember, I speak now. I am Jack. I stood in the doorway and watched my house become a courtroom and a battlefield at the same time. Then the threat came. A car idled across the street for hours. The driver stared at my porch. At midnight, someone spray-painted the word TRAIT on the mailbox across from mine. The knife edge of danger sharpened again. Coming up, everyone who turns a key in this town will be tested. Friends will be forced to choose. The guard will decide whether to close ranks or cut me off. I went to the base hoping for more. The colonel met me in a narrow office. His face had new lines. He looked tired. "Jack," he said, "no greeting. There are public and internal pressures." He slid a thick envelope across his desk. Inside were letters from anonymous donors, complaints, and a formal request from upstairs demanding my temporary resignation from any public-facing role. While investigations continued. "You want me to step down?" I said. "We need stability," he replied. He looked at me the way men look at an old dog, respect wrapped in regret. I left with my hands empty. Even my uniform seemed to weigh me down more than before. That afternoon, my lawyer called with a new problem. One of the journalists got cold feet. Her editors were being pressured. Sources named in the ledger started to deny. Someone had called them. Someone had threatened them. The ledger's path had been traced back to the thin man who visited my porch. He was found the next morning with his car overturned in a ditch 2 counties over. No witnesses. No witnesses who would talk. The ledger vanished. I sat and watched my coffee go cold. I am Jack. I had been careful. I had moved pieces. But some hands were larger than mine. Some players didn't mind blood on their gloves. Coming up, when proof disappears, faith follows. And I was running out of faith. That night, someone left a package at my gate. Inside, a single Polaroid. It showed my wife, ice hollow, suitcases by the door. Someone had been watching her. Someone had taken this picture more than once. A note on the back, "Leave or lose everything." My phone vibrated with unknown numbers. My lawyer advised me to get a restraining order. He told me to go to a safe house. He advised me to run. I thought of my wife reading the note and leaving. I thought of the ledger in a ditch. I thought of the man in my kitchen who had given me hope. I thought of the boy with the gun. I thought of my own hand on his wrist and the smell of gunpowder on my clothes. I felt raw anger and a nameless sorrow press into me. This is Jack. I do not run. I drove to the councilman's office at dawn. He was fluff and perfume and denial. He invited me like a host. He offered coffee. I poured it into the sink. I told him about the ledger, about the video, about the threats. His face tightened. He fumbled with a pen. He then smiled the polite smile I'd ever seen at a funeral and said, "This is messy, Jack. Public life is messy." He offered platitudes and nothing of substance. When I left, I felt the taste of bile. The system was a machine that hummed and chewed. I was a splinter caught in the gears. Coming up, the next step would not be legal. It would be surgical. It would cut clean. It would either free me or bury me. I made calls. Old contacts answered with the same mix of fear and loyalty. Some promised help. Some said it wasn't their fight. A private investigator with a reputation for finding things no one else could find gave me a name. The Courier. He was a ghost who bought and sold secrets to the highest bidder. He had been seen in the area recently. Finding the courier meant going into places I'd promised myself I'd never return to. It meant dealing with people who wore menace like a suit. It meant lying and bribing and bargaining with men who believed in nothing but the weight of money. I am Jack. I drove anyway. The night I found him, he looked like he had swallowed the map of the city and spat it back out. He smelled of smoke and old whiskey. His eyes were two practiced knives. He listened as I threw the ledger, to truck video, and the Polaroid at him. He chewed and spat a cigarette and said, "You want the trail? It will cost you more than money. It will cost you patience and shame." I nodded. "Tell me where Karen really makes her calls, where the donations go, who wipes the records." He smiled, slow. "You think you can handle the answers?" he asked. I said, "I have to. I am Jack." Coming up, if the courier was honest, I would get names I could not ignore. If he lied, I would be deeper in a pit than before. He gave me a lead. A meeting at an abandoned mill outside town. Midnight. Bring cash. Bring nothing you love. I drove there with the ledger's ghost in my head and the Polaroid burning in my pocket. The mill stood like a tooth in the dark. Inside, the courier moved like a rumor. He spoke in pieces and traded names like cards. He told me where the funds moved. He named a bank account overseas. He named a lawyer who handled shell companies. He named Tyler's handler. He named a phone number that traced back to an email registered under Karen's maiden name. The list was staggering. Proof, path, away through the fog. I left with the courier's grin and the knowledge that I now had to act faster than smoke. I had to lock down witnesses. I had to protect my wife, if she'd let me. I had to stop the ledger from becoming another roadkill. The night I returned, lights in the house were off. My porch swing creaked gently in the wind. I walked forward, hands clenched, and felt the world tilt. My phone buzzed. An unknown number, a voice I recognized as cold as glass. "You should have left. Now you will watch everything burn." I stopped breathing. That was not a threat. It was a promise. Coming up, the ledger could make saints out of demons, or it could kill the messenger. I had a choice. Run with the proof and risk losing the last pieces of what I had left, or stand and fight and let the next move be mine. I am Jack. I did not run. I stepped inside. The house was quiet. The Polaroid on the table looked back at me like an accusation. The night outside was busy with hunters and liars. The question hung heavy. Who was the one pulling every string? And how many would fall before I could cut the hand that held them? And that was the knife at my throat as I turned up the hall and heard, faint through the walls, a radio playing someone's tired voice counting down the minutes until dawn. The night didn't end. It stretched, like a wound that refused to close. This is Jack speaking again. And this time, I can feel the city breathing differently, heavy, slow, like it knows what's coming. I stood in the dark kitchen, the fridge light flickering, the Polaroid lying on the table beside my gun. Outside, the wind dragged dead leaves across the porch. Somewhere far off, a dog barked, then stopped, as if it to realize that silence was safer. The phone kept buzzing. Unknown numbers, one after another. Then, nothing. Just stillness. The kind of stillness that means asterisk someone's watching. Asterisk I checked the back door. Locked. The windows. Intact. My mind ran through every thread I'd made. Every secret I uncovered. Every name that could now want me gone. The courier's lead. The ledger. Karen's fake accounts. The photo of my wife. Everything was connected, but I couldn't yet see the pattern. I could only feel it tightening. And in that moment, the air asterisk shifted. Asterisk footsteps outside. Slow, confident. Not thieves. Not cops. People who already knew what they'd find. Coming up. Someone will break the silence. And when they do, you'll understand why I never trusted peace again. The handle turned. I lifted the gun, aimed steady. The door opened. A flash of movement. And a voice. "Don't shoot." It was her. My wife. Eyes swollen. Suitcase still in hand. Shivering. Whispering, "Jack." They followed me. I pulled her inside, slammed the door. My heart was beating like it wanted out. She looked like she hadn't slept in days. Her hands were trembling, her voice cracked like glass. "They said if I didn't leave town, they'd make you disappear," she said. I didn't believe them. Then the calls started. The same voice, every night. "A man," he said. "Tell Jack to stop digging. This is Jack." And in that instant, I realized they weren't just cleaning up the mess. They were rewriting the story, erasing witnesses, burning trails, one by one. I held her face in my hands. "You did right coming back. I said. We finish this together. But she shook her head. Jack, they already know where you are. Someone in your uni told them. That froze me. Because the only people who knew my address were supposed to protect me. Coming up, betrayal always comes from the inside. Always. I told her to stay low. Tacked essentials. Loaded a flash drive with every file I had. Video, screenshots, voice notes, ledgers. If I was going down, I'd make sure the world had something to choke on. Then, headlights flared across the window. 2 cars, black, parked, silent. Doors opened. Men stepped out. No badges, no words. They moved like a cleanup crew. This is Jack, I whispered to myself, sliding the gun's safety off. You're not dying in your kitchen. My wife grabbed my hand. Her breath was quick and even. Jack, what do we do? I smiled, thin, tired. We make them earn it. They reached the porch. One of them knocked. Gentle, polite, like he was selling salvation. Then the window shattered. I fired once, twice. The sound tore the night open. My wife screamed. Someone outside fell. The others ducked. Silence. Then the second wave came. Flashlight slicing through darkness. Glass crunching under boots. Adrenaline was the only thing left in my veins. I fired again. 1 hit. 1 miss. A bullet tore the cabinet beside my head. I felt splinters bite my cheek. Blood tasted like metal. Coming up. This isn't a gunfight. It's a message. They're not here to kill me. They're here to erase me. Then, a voice from outside. Jack, stop. You don't have to do this. It was Colonel Stevens, my own commander. He stepped into the flashlight's glow, hands raised, badge gleaming. Behind him, the men. My men. Military police. Not killers, not marks. Or maybe, both. Jack, he said, his voice measured. Cold. You're making this worse. You've been compromised. You're endangering lives. Come with us. We'll fix it quietly. Quietly. That word again. Quiet was how they buried the truth. Quiet was the sound of lies being rewritten. You're with them, I said. He hesitated, just long enough to answer my question without a word. Then he nodded toward my wife. We can keep her safe. I aimed the gun lower, heart ripping itself apart. I wanted to believe him, but his eyes, they weren't eyes of a man saving a comrade. They were eyes of someone signing off on an operation. Coming up. Loyalty or love. You can't save both. I told my wife to run to the back door. She hesitated, crying, shaking. Jack, please. I didn't let her finish. I pulled the trigger again, not at him, at the lamp. The room went black. Shadows screamed. I grabbed her, pushed her out, ducked low. We ran through the kitchen, the smell of gunpowder heavy in the air. Out the back, over the fence, through the alley. Sirens echoed somewhere behind us. We kept running. My breath tore through my chest. I didn't feel my legs anymore. We hid behind an old truck 2 blocks away. I looked back. The house was on fire. Flames climbing the walls, orange devils licking the windows. They burned it. Evidence. Everything. My life. Gone in 15 minutes. This is Jack. And that's when I realized they weren't trying to arrest me. They were cleaning up a narrative. And now, I was the villain in it. Coming up. The hunted learns to become the hunter. We spent the night in a cheap motel near the highway, the kind where the walls smell like bleach and regret. My wife slept in pieces. I stayed up, phone in hand, watching every shadow move. My reflection in the mirror looked like a stranger, eyes hollow, skin pale. That's what truth does to you. It strips away everything, until all that's left is the fight. I opened the laptop, plugged in the flash drive. Half the files were corrupted. The rest, incomplete. Someone had breached my system remotely. The only thing left intact, one audio clip, a recording from the courier. I played it. His voice crackled through static. If you're hearing this, it means the ledger's gone. And the people behind it know your name. But listen. There's one copy left. Stored off-grid. A dead drop. Old radio tower, county line. 3 a.m. Bring no one. That was the final breadcrumb. The last chance. Coming up, the dead drop will decide everything, the truth, or the end. I kissed my wife's forehead. She stirred but didn't wake. I wrote a note on the nightstand, asterisk if I don't come back by sunrise, leave town. Don't look back, asterisk. Then I left, alone. The road was empty. The air smelled like rain. Every mile felt like a countdown. When I reached the tower, lightning flashed, illuminating the rusted steel skeleton against the clouds. The courier hadn't lied. There was a small lockbox near the base, hidden under gravel. I pried it open. Inside, a hard drive, sealed in plastic, and a note. Asterisk for when the world forgets what justice looks like. Asterisk. I smiled, bitterly. Not yet, I said, and then headlights appeared again. 3 vehicles, approaching fast. I grabbed the drive and ran. Shots cracked through the storm. Bullets hissed through rain. I dove behind the tower's base. Metal sang as rounds ricocheted. One hit my shoulder. I screamed but kept moving. They wanted the drive. They wanted silence. I wasn't giving them either. This is Jack, and if you're still watching, remember this: truth doesn't die quietly. It burns. It screams. It takes everything with it. Coming up, sunrise, the final confrontation, the proof, the reckoning. But before that, someone has to bleed. This is Jack, and this is the end of the road. The storm had passed, but the world was still trembling. I could smell smoke, metal, and rain. The kind of smell that stays in your lungs forever. I pressed the wound on my shoulder, blood warm, fingers cold. The drive was still in my pocket, heavy, alive, like a beating heart that wasn't mine. I heard engines fade into distance, or maybe that was thunder. Hard to tell now. I sat against the rusted tower, staring at the horizon. The first light of dawn crawled over the trees, slow, cautious, afraid to touch the wreckage of the night. And for the first time in a long time, I felt empty, not calm, not free, just empty. This is Jack Harris. General, soldier, neighbor, ghost. Coming up. No, there's nothing coming up anymore. I looked at the hard drive in my hand. Everything I had left. The proof, the reason, the curse. My wife, my house, my name. Gone because of this small, silent thing. I thought about burning it, ending it. But then I heard it. A voice, soft, metallic, not from behind, from asterisk inside, asterisk the drive. Hello, Jack. Static. Then silence. I froze. Looked around. No one. Only the tower, the rain, the wind. Then the voice again, clearer. You shouldn't have come here. My pulse spiked. I dropped the drive. It landed in the mud. Lights blinked. Red, blue, red, blue. Like a heartbeat counting down. And then static again, but not random. It sounded like coordinates. A transmission. Someone or something was listening. This is Jack, and if you're still hearing me, understand this. Some wars don't end when you win. They end when you stop understanding who you're fighting. The drive started to hum, low, deep. Vibration crawling up my spine. The tower lights flicker. 1, 2. Then darkness. Lightning split the sky. A flash, white, endless. Then silence. The screen goes black. Only one sound remains. A soft click, like a door closing somewhere far away. And a whisper. Welcome home, General. Cut to black.